What's up, TBS crew? It's your boy Steph back with another reaction. So while I was scoping around on YouTube, like looking for new scary videos and scary stories to watch for you guys, and just for me to find some new horror content creators for me to watch and be entertained by on my personal time, I came across this guy called Don't Turn Around Scary Stories. And I've never heard of him. No one's ever, suggested him to me. But it's a video, Two Missing Girls, scary animated story. Those animated stories do be scary as hell sometimes. So it's a good minute. It's about almost 16 minutes. So it's gonna be a good video. I can already tell. So I'm gonna give him a listen. Y'all already know how it works. If I like the story, if I like, the effects, the voice, blah, 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 I will definitely watch more of their content in the future. If I don't, I probably won't watch as many, if any at all. But like I said, I know for a fact I'm going to like it. I could tell by the thumbnail that I'm going to like this video. So down in the description will be links to Don't Turn Around's channel, to this original video, and to all of my social medias. Get at your boy and see the person like that I don't upload to YouTube. Without further ado, let's get into it. Oh, Don't Turn Around, scary stories, huh? Yeah. Good advice. Don't turn around. Don't turn around.
This is a true
Animations.
story. I couldn't tell anyone until now. When I was walking home from school, I came across some coats hanging on a fence. Now, it had been raining real bad all night and all day, and they looked like they had been there for a while. One was red, puffy. It looked like it would keep you warm. The other was gray and dreary, more like a sweatshirt.
Like the
They had a
force you're in.
sadness about them, like they were abandoned. My first thought was someone had hung them there to dry. They were both my size, but didn't seem much like something a boy would wear.
Right.
With that said, I was never choosy. It sucks to be poor.
Yeah.
I'd go through dumpsters and hang outside restaurants waiting for leftovers.
What?
One time I was so hungry that I thought about stealing something, but I never did. I considered myself a good person, and if it's not mine, then it's not mine.
This is
They
depressing.
made fun of me a lot, calling me poor man. Not a great name, but it is what it is.
This is depressing, bro.
When I was younger, I stopped going to birthday parties, as we couldn't give a gift. One thing I did love to do was draw. I'd draw anything and everything I'd see. Dad hated me drawing for some reason, and actually said I couldn't draw at home. So I drew at the library or in one of my hideouts. Now, back to these coats. I needed a coat real bad. And, well, there were two of them. As much as I wanted to take them, and yes, I wanted them both, I didn't. It's not that anyone needed them more than me. They didn't.
Right.
I'd walk home back and forth from school freezing all the time, and I needed a coat bad. It was just that I didn't want to steal and take something away from someone else who needed it more than me. I ended up going home and did my homework. Dad never came back that night, and the rain just started belting down. God, it was relentless, like someone just hammering nails on the roof. I wasn't allowed to watch TV, but I imagined the news was going to say that it was going to be wet for the whole next week.
That's what she said.
And as I walked to school, the coats were still there. School happened. Nothing notable as I remember. As the thunder rumbled in the sky, I looked up thinking maybe they fell out of a plane. I considered looking around to see if there was any luggage. My gut was no one was coming back for them, so I took them. I know it might seem weird to you that I made such a big deal out of these coats, but when I was younger, my mom, before she died, gave me a baseball. She said it was a very special baseball and that it was signed and worth a lot of money. I hid it in a tree, just to be sure that my dad wouldn't take it and sell it. There was a project at school where they asked us to give a presentation to the class. It was about what meant something to you. And, like the biggest idiot, I told the class about my ball. I didn't think much about it until a few weeks later I wanted to check up on it. And it was gone. I had never found out who took it. But having something taken from you is the worst feeling ever. Now, back in my trailer, it was so bad you could see the rain flying horizontally through the air.
Damn.
I checked to see if there was a name tag in the coat. Mad. Speaking of mad, my dad was furious. When he saw me wearing the new coat, he screamed at me and asked me where I got it. I told him I found it near the river. He grabbed me by my shoulders and yelled I shouldn't pick up stuff that belonged to others and went to hit me. I stepped back, just missed his fist, and I ran out the door as fast as I could. It sucks to have a dad who thinks you're a punching bag, but that was him.
Oh, he wanted them.
While I loved him, he also made my life a living hell. As I ran through the woods, I heard his voice bellow out behind me as he yelled out my name. And I sure as hell didn't stop. Instead, I ran to the school where I knew there was an unlocked shed that I could always crash in. It was kind of like my second home, I called it. Shed Hotel. I stayed there all night and never went home. I must have been the first one at school that day. The rain continued to attack me on the way to the main building, but that coat was awesome. At lunch, I sat alone. I was a little out in the rain, but it was the only bench available. I didn't mind much as I had my coat on. Of course, I didn't have a lunch, so I wanted to be as far away from the smell of food as possible. There was some commotion at the other end.
Police lights?
And then a silence as I saw some hats walk across the courtyard. I recognized them right away, as they were the local sheriffs. They had been to my house a long time ago to speak with my dad about something when my mom died.
The sheriff.
The minute they went to the principal's office, everyone continued chattering.
County police.
I asked someone what was going on, and they looked at me like I was an alien. Everyone seemed to know more than me. Maybe it was because I wasn't allowed to watch TV, or maybe it was because I didn't really have any friends. I don't know. Eventually, a sixth grader told me that 2 eighth-grade girls had gone missing the day before. Everyone was sad. The 2 girls I didn't know, who had been playing in the woods, had just vanished.
Why?
There were even news vans parked outside on the street next to the school with reporters trying to interview parents. A sheriff was handing out sheets of paper, so I went up to him. Turns out there were missing posters, drawn by a sketch artist. One of the girls was called Catherine, and the other, Madeline. Madeline had on a similar coat to mine.
Mad.
Wait, it suddenly occurred to me that Mad could be Madeline. My heart raced. Had I taken her coat? As I stood there in front of the officer, I felt like I'd get in so much trouble if he knew. He stared at me, and then he stared at the coat. And I wanted him to figure it out for himself and ask me about the coat. But he didn't. I slowly walked away, then sat in a classroom, thinking about what I should do. As kids came in, they talked about how sheriffs were everywhere searching for Mad and Catherine. I stared at the coat in the sketch, and then looked at the reflection of the real thing in the window. I was so scared. Scared that someone would suddenly say I had that coat on, and scared that no one would realize. I thought about going into the bathroom and just dumping the coat, and then letting someone else know that it was in there. Well, the sheriff came into my classroom. He asked everyone if we had seen anything. When no one answered, he gave us a talk on not going off with strangers and how dangerous it could be.
And stupid.
Someone asked him about some other kids that went missing a few years back. Now, I didn't know about them, but the sheriff said it was true. Mad and Catherine weren't the first kids to go missing in our town. When the sheriff left, I felt so bad. Tears welled up on my face, and I pushed them out of the way. I felt eyes all on me as kids looked my way. I got up and I ran out. Not because of them, but because I had to do what was right. I mean, those girls might be on their last breaths, and if I didn't help, they might be lost from the world forever. The sheriff was in the hallway and turned to me as I ran out the door. As I approached, he calmly and warmly assured me, "Don't be afraid. We'll catch whoever did this." I shook my head, showing him my coat, telling him that it was Mads. I thought he was going to be angry and hit me, just like my dad.
Why?
But he wasn't.
That's illegal.
He was thankful, and he asked me to follow him. And we went into the principal's office. I sat there alone for about 10 minutes before he came in and gave me his sheriff's jacket. It was several sizes too big, but really warm. He said it was mine for helping him out, and he asked me if I'd show him exactly where I found the coats.
And find the other one.
Of course I'd help them, and led them to the fence. As we arrived, we were met by another detective who was also a police sketch artist.
He's moving like a South Park character.
When we were there, he asked me where the other coat was. I told him it was at my place and that my dad probably had it. He asked me where I lived, then asked who my dad was. The sheriff then told me something that shook me to my core. He said years ago when I was young, when my mom disappeared, some other kids had gone missing too. My mom had been to the police station with a drawing. Apparently it was one of mine. It was of a man with two girls, both in raincoats with flower patterns. It made my dad a suspect in their disappearance, but they could never get enough evidence. That's when my mom disappeared. Then they said they thought it was him. But again, they couldn't prove it. They asked me to think really, really hard whether I knew anything that could help them. I wish I did, but I couldn't think of anything. The detective asked if I had ever kept any of my old drawings. I'd had them under my mattress.
Ew.
Now, I had secretly kept everything there that I'd ever drawn from a very, very young age. Ever since I lost my mom, and, well, I didn't want to lose anything else. We all went to my trailer together. Dad wasn't home. I heard some of the cops say that they had a warrant for his arrest, which was confirmed by the detective as he looked over my pictures. I hadn't looked at some of them in a very long time, and I didn't remember most of them. But I could see how, as I grew up, they got better. Some of the drawings were of two girls, both in raincoats with flower patterns. They questioned me about them, but I couldn't really remember anything. I couldn't remember even ever drawing them. They were pictures of a woman with long black hair. I knew that was my mom. I loved her smile. And then there was the man in black.
Ooh.
This was my dad. He had an evil face and large, monstrous hands.
Looks like a Pokemon.
I was often walking in the woods, and it was chasing me and just jumping out from the trees behind me. The detective, whose name was Jason, told me how good the drawings were, and that I had a lot of talent. He was trying to help me remember stuff, and whenever I said anything I guessed that was important, his eyes would widen and he'd look over to the sheriff. Now, there was a blue rectangle in several of the pictures. In one, the two girls with raincoats. They asked me if it was a house. I couldn't remember what it was.
Looked like a jail
Until
cell.
I saw a photo with a ladder on top of it. My eyes lit up, and they instantly knew that I knew where it was. On one side of the trailer park was a very rocky cliff edge. Everyone stayed away from it because it was so dangerous. But I remember once my dad taking a rope ladder there. Well, I remember this because I followed him, thinking that maybe he was setting up a swing for me. But it wasn't. And I forgot all about it until now. The sheriff ordered officers to that area. Now, they had body cameras on them, so I watched a video on the monitor, pointing out exactly where I saw my dad take that ladder.
What?
Approach with extreme caution. see a cage. He's here. Suspect is here.
As I watched, suddenly, I heard gunfire. As one of the officers went down, everyone flinched. The sheriff yelled commands, and panicked and screaming voices came through the radio. And then, more shots. Jason shuffled me into the other room, so I couldn't tell what was going on. About half an hour later, the sheriff came in, and Jason asked if the girls had been found. But the sheriff looked sad. He told Jason to wait outside and then sat down to break some news to me. He said that my dad was there and was shot and dead.
Yeah.
I asked if he got the girls, and he nodded his head and whispered,
Good.
"They're safe." Now, I couldn't help but smile. They were no longer lost. While I loved my dad, I felt somewhat relieved. It meant, for sure, I knew my life was going to change, and to be honest, he was, as Billie Eilish says, a bad guy. By the way, this story doesn't end bad. I graduated high school, went to college, graduated, went to Quantico, became an FBI agent.
Where?
It wasn't all good. I did lose my leg at some point.
What?
But I'll save that story for another time. I now hunt bad guys. And while I'm not proud that my dad was the raincoat killer, I can say this to all bad guys out there. Don't turn around. I'll be right behind you.
Dude. This was a good ass video. That was a good ass story. Depressing as hell though. His life was hell. And it just got worse. Your mom dies when you're at a young age. You're poor. Your father's abusive. Your father's psychotic. A kidnapper. Fuck. And then he gets shot to death, which is good because he kidnapped those girls for whatever reason. Yeah, man, I'm so glad I came upon this guy. Y'all already know what's got to happen. Subscribe. Tap the bell to get notified about all new videos. All. And there we go. Don't turn around. You've got yourself a new subscriber, brother. Keep up the good work. But yeah, man, that story was so sad. And, you know, the crazy thing about it is that I know a lot of kids that are like that, not with that horrible of a life, with the parents being dead at young ages and all that, or the mom being dead at a young age and the father being crazy and all that. But I knew a lot of kids that were less fortunate and grew up to be quite successful, have nice paying jobs, got into law enforcement, got into the steel mill, you know, starting up their own businesses, and they're doing great. You know, so shouts out to y'all, man. You know, when you struggle, when you've been put through the struggle, because I've been put through that, and there are times to this day I'm still going through it. When you get money, you know how to ration your money and spend it wisely, because that's what you've been having to do, you know, thus far. Y'all know what I mean? When you're not used to struggling and you're used to having a lot of money, more than not, you're going to be extremely reckless the more money you get. But when you struggle and you live paycheck to paycheck, or, you know, you have a limited amount of funds, you know how to, you know, divide your money up between bills, necessities for the household, and things of that nature. So, yeah, man, I fucks with the story. I fucks with Don't Turn Around. Love the story. Love, brother. Thank you so much, guys, for watching my video. If you enjoyed the reaction, leave a like, a comment, and share the video. And if you really liked it, subscribe to the channel and tap that bell icon so you will get notified every time your boy Steph drop new content, which I do 7 times a week. That is all I got for y'all this time around. Your boy Steph is out.